Previously on Drone Wars.
Right now, we're at a point of inflection in our history where we are so close to being on the tip of changing our culture with regards to small UAS. You know, everything it was supposed to be and wasn't during the global war on terrorism. And as we watch world events unfold in multiple theaters right now, it is so apparent that if we don't fix ourselves, we're going to find out. They shouldn't be thinking about that when they're getting ready to do an airborne op. It's like, I have a piece of material, it's sound, and I'm going to survive if I use it to close with and destroy the enemy. It's the entirety of the system. It's not an us against you mentality in here. It's a team of teams, right? A coalition of the willing. This is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Brabner, and you are watching the Drone Wars podcast.
So let's drill into this a little bit, right? So collaborative and communicative, like autonomy between robots in a comms denied environment.
Yeah.
That's a big mountain to climb there.
It's kind of a big deal, right? I think we're fortunate in that we don't have to solve these problems on our own. Mm-hmm. That's where industry comes in. Mm-hmm. And that's where industry come into Fort Moore and talking with us like, hey, what are your requirements? What are your emerging requirements? Oh, hey, we've been investing a lot of our IRAD money in this. Is this of interest to you? Hey, tell me more about that. Like, show me what that is. And then the light bulb goes on and you're like, hey, there's a home for this in the entire joint SUAS, or maybe just a system within that family of systems.
Sure.
And then you start working the architecture piece. And at the fundamental baseline level of everything we do in maneuver, it's shoot, move, communicate. So if you master the basics, you do those things very well, and then you have insertion points for new tech, and you just keep ramping up or dialing up the spicy in each of those categories. Eventually, we're going to get to having systems that are going to be, they're going to follow an exponential growth curve, an evolutionary growth curve. And it's going to be amazing to see once we start fielding this rebaseline between now and 2030. That's really what we've been trying to do, is rebaseline our culture, right? Said it was glacial, it was tectonic. All the things we didn't do with technology. We had tech, but we weren't good users of tech. Now, I think the realization is there that if we don't learn these lessons, develop these solutions, we're going to go back and learn very hard, blunt force trauma lessons of the two-way petting zoo over again. And I don't think we're willing to pay for that in terms of blood and sweat from our warfighters. Like, we don't have a stomach for it. So let's do the right thing, invest, innovate, and then field actual capability of the warfighter.
Yeah. Do you agree with some of the things Elon said? Like, we think drones are kind of the new nuclear weapons. Like, is this going to be one of the defining technologies of the next 10, 20 years?
I really think so. So in all of our professional military schools, we talk about revolutions in military affairs, black powder, nuclear deterrence, robotic enabled maneuver. Like, look at what we're seeing going on right now in Europe between Russia and in Ukraine, right? Would you really want to fight a nation or a series of allied nations that mastered robotic enabled maneuver? Like, gone are the days of, keep your powder dry until you see the whites of their eyes. Like, right. Flip the paradigm that was the global war on terrorism. It was always IED alley, right? I can't tell you how many times I heard a time and place of the enemy's choosing. A time and place of the enemy's choosing. Now, through robotic enabled maneuver, it'll be a time and place of our choosing. And that's the difference between movement maneuver and fire and maneuver. And can I go out and do these mission critical tasks that usually required an operator, a soldier, an airman, a Marine to go out and do? Can I now do them with a family of systems of UGVs, swarm drones, joint SUAS, individual cape sets? Can I go do those now? Find, fix, deliver, defeat, neutralize, destroy the enemy before I even leave my last covered and concealed position or a protective area, whether that's a combat outpost or a patrol base or something like that. So it's very scary. And you look at the lessons learned with IEDs over the last 25 years, those haven't gone away. It's like castle warfare, right? If I destroy your castle, you'll build a bigger castle and I'll find a way to destroy it. Now we have flying IEDs in the sky.
Yep.
And if you watch anything, it is a significant emotional event, even in a training capacity where things are safe and sound. When you go from solving horizontal problems to now looking at the entire 360-degree two-way petting zoo. I don't like to use the word, game changer, but the game's changed. So if you do not adapt and you try to field, a team, go play football, right? And you're still playing with, like 1950 tactics and technology, and you go out there, you are going to get hammered.
I mean, look what happened to Syria's armor. In 6 days, it was destroyed.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, so let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So you're asking a big glacial moving organization to change its thinking, to change what it spends money on, and to probably update its kind of, training procedures.
Yeah.
How's that going? Is the message getting through?
I think it is. I think what really impresses me is the audacity and the tenacity of our commanders, our non-commissioned officer corps, and more so our soldiers out there. They're innovators, and you have a lot of folks there that are GWAT babies, still walking around in formation, that they learned all those hard lessons. They were alone and unafraid, whether that was Iraq, Afghanistan, or other places like Syria around the world. They know. So, a fool sits there and just takes it all in and has this sense of bravado or invincibility to him. But a smart tactician, an actual warrior, starts looking over the horizon at that next fight, and they start preparing for it. So I can tell you right now, across the United States Army, and I'm just speaking for the Army, right? You have innovation labs full of soldiers and NCOs and young officers that are tech savvy. They can program software, they can 3D print, do additive manufacturing. They are problem solvers, and they are working with their commanders to generate solutions. It goes back to that, hey, what robots do is moderately interesting, but the effects they help commanders achieve on the battlefield is that decisive overmatch. It's decision advantage, right? Commanders are starting to embrace this because they know too, they're not new to the game, right? They've been to the two-way petting zoo. They know you can pet the tiger, but the tiger pets back really hard, right? They know that a sound investment in their soldiers is a sound investment in mission success, and then bringing more of them home.
Yeah. How much are the lessons we're like seeing be learned through like blood in Ukraine making their way back into the big army machine?
I mean, hell, I watch them.
Sure.
And I'm like, it gives me flashbacks to Afghanistan.
Sure.
And I see Ukrainian and Russian soldiers using tools that we don't have in a very complex 360-degree, ever-evolving, ever-changing battlefield. So it's easy for me to just look back on experiential vignettes in my career, talk with my buddies, and then other subject matter experts across the force that are doing stuff. They're on robotic and autonomous system teams within units. They're out there pushing TTPs. They're training, but the want's still there, right? They need the capability. So that's part of the push that we're doing with requirements, is to re-baseline for maneuver in tandem with our proponency, which is aviation, to do this as a holistic team. It's just not a one tool approach. Like, it has to be a team of teams, a coalition of the willing. So, our commanders are embracing this. And with the new administration, yesterday I posted something. I posted a Pete Hegseth's video. He said, hey, these are the 16 lines of effort that we will not compromise. 2 of which, unmanned aerial vehicles and lethal UAS, or one-way strike drones. If only you knew a guy that had a portfolio that was all those 2, right? So I'm very optimistic, and I'm excited of where we are about to go. And, don't kick in a door unless, if you're afraid of what's on the other side. Well, we got some good stuff on the other side of this door. So kick it in and, run with these.
Yeah. Talk to me about how long it kind of took you to generate the first 5 of the 8 requirements you're going to have.
Yeah. I'll show it to you, man. So the first one was the joint small UAS. I don't want to mess up your...
You're good.
You're around there. So this is the joint small unmanned aircraft system. We refer to it as the JSUAS capabilities development document. So this is our overarching umbrella document. And then everything we do underneath that is an annex within a family of systems. So this was directed by Vice Admiral Joyner, who sits on the Joint Staff, the Joint Requirement Oversight Council. And what she did with her team and her staff was like looked across the entire DoD enterprise and says, hey, we are currently in the era of J.G. Wentworth. It's like, these are my drones. I want them now. We can't afford them, right? So we can't have every service branch going off doing their own unique thing, competing for very minimal fiscal resources. So we have to have better economies of scale in our investments here. So they directed the Joint Small U.S. CDD. So the Army, we were tagged to be the lead service branch. So we had Army, you had Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, even Space Force. Because Elon says we are going to be an interplanetary species here pretty soon. So Space Force is going to need drones, right? So there's that. We did it. We started running with it. The Army has done the most work in getting annexes approved. I just have a 3-man team. At my highest point over the last 2.5 years, I had 7 of my personnel were cut. So we're still doing this level of work with a very small team, but we're achieving success, right? We are exercising the disciplined initiative. Nobody told us to do the FPV annex, which the naming convention for the Army now is a purpose-built attritable system. One, it's purpose-built for a specific mission, and it's an attritable system, right? So we did that. The only thing it cost us was time. And we reached out to those subject matter experts I was talking about earlier, the soldiers, the officers, the NCOs, across the joint forces. And we took what they were experiencing and learning and innovating with in their innovation labs in terms of what do you want the system to be in terms of key performance parameters, key situational attributes, and additional attributes to round out that PBAS annex. And then now we're in the process of getting it approved by the Chief of Staff of the Army. And then once we have that approved, it goes to the program managers within ASALT. They take appropriations, money that's aligned to that program. It's a new start program. And then we start working the requirements regeneration based on feedback. And that's really how I think we change acquisition, we change requirement development. And then it goes back to the rigidity cycle. Like that's how we break it. You have people writing requirements. You have people going and getting money through the PPBE process, SPAR and POM, and we close loop. And then we're very elastic, like we're flexible, and then we're feeding off each other. Because at the end of the day, if you look at that diagram I built, both organizations thrive off requirements. If ASALT doesn't have requirements, they can't do what Big Army wants. And if we don't do requirements, they can't do the material development piece to go get us the capability sets we need to actually fight and win our nation's wars.
Drone Wars is recorded from Firestorm's global headquarters in San Diego, California. Each episode is filmed inside our X-Cell, a modular industrial-grade manufacturing facility designed to be deployed anywhere in the world within 24 hours for on-demand drone production. Each week on the podcast, we bring you cutting-edge insights from unmanned industry leaders. Listen as they share the breakthroughs and technologies they're working on, the hard lessons they've learned, and the bold predictions about what the next 5 to 10 years in unmanned systems and advanced manufacturing have in store for us. Enjoying the show so far? Then be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now back to the show. You know, I think you've done this for a number of years, right? Yeah. What advice would you have given yourself when you started this process that you now know, right? Because this is very transformative.
Yeah. Everything in life is an experiential learning model. So you may be in a job, you don't like it, you're uncomfortable, you're being challenged, right? So complacency kills. I was on fire when I came into the acquisition corps. Like they had to tone me back. Like they had to water me down, right?
Slow it down.
Yeah, I came in straight out of Afghanistan, and I'd walk in and use very colorful language, and I'd be knife handing people like, "Hey, you with the face, what are you doing?" And there were some jobs that, looking back, I probably should have been a little more open-minded to. But now, at the end of my career, on 12 years of acquisition, because of everything I learned, everything I experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly in those jobs, it all added up to this point in time to take all those lessons learned, put them together and say, hey, number one soft tenet is understand your operational environment.
Yep.
And that's what I did when I came in on July 1st, 2022. Let's take a holistic look and understand the operational environment. Here's the mission. Here's the vision I was given, go win. How do I do that, right? I was gifted the Joint Small UAS CDD, and as an acquisition officer with 12 years of experience and 14 years of operational experience, I said, wow, this is a gift from God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can do something with this or you can do nothing with this.
Mm-hmm.
This is why nobody will remember your name.
Mm-hmm.
So we started charging with this.
Mm-hmm.
And we got our first annex approved on 19 December. That was long range reconnaissance. The Army has never had a battalion capability. So battalion commanders, the entire GWAD, they never had anything. It was always Shadow at brigade, and it was Raven at company, nothing in between.
Interesting.
So now we're providing a capability to battalion commanders that can go out and really dominate the key terrain that will always be the sky, right? Look back historically at how World War II generals fought, how Civil War generals fought. What did they do? They went and they occupied the number one piece of key high terrain, and they would send runners based on what they saw happening on the battlefield. Hey, I want you to reinforce here. I want you to, pull back here as a feint, suck them in and then flank. The air ground littorals is no different. That is the air is the number one piece of key terrain. And historically speaking, we always tactically farm it out to inorganic assets.
Mm.
And when air goes black, you lose fixed wing, rotary wing, ISR. You are still on the ground having to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So now a battalion commander will have a long-range reconnaissance capability at his disposal. He can mitigate risk. And at time and place of his choosing, he can put it up in the sky to do what? Develop decision advantage, enable subordinate units to conduct the movement and maneuver fight on the ground. That's huge. And that's just one component of it, right? We're doing it at an echelon. So everything from squad to battalion and everything in between is a family of systems. So now the squad leader has the same capability in a soldier-borne sensor Tranche 2, Teledyne FLIR Black Hornet 4 that a battalion commander will have with a long-range reconnaissance. And then those capabilities will be interoperable across the ATAC ITN network, shoot, move, communicate. Communication being the keystone, the foundational thing of everything we do. If you can't communicate, you're not shooting. If you can't communicate, you're not moving, right? So it's huge. And that's why our Joint SWAS strategy survives. Like if you're familiar with the principles of patrolling for Ranger units, the last one is common sense. And our strategy is grounded in common sense. Our requirements are not gold plated. They're obtainium. They are not unobtainium. And that's why I'm confident we're going to win. And emulation is the best form of flattery. I think other units, other requirements teams in the Army are looking at us now and they're saying, hey, how are they doing this? What can we do? And we're starting to see it, like other requirements teams like contacting me, whether it's contested logistics, future vertical lift, other things like that. They're saying, what are you doing differently? So they're learning, right? We're going to adapt, but it's that culture change piece that we're in the midst of right now. Organizational cultural change is one of the hardest things for any unit to do. Sure. And the Army is not small.
Yeah. Well, but you eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like that one too.
Yeah. Okay. So let's now kind of pivot here for a minute and let's talk about the future of swarms.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a topic you love.
Yeah.
Dude, the floor is yours.
Okay. When I came into the job, swarm was that thing that was kind of like out there, right? And I was like, this is what we need to get to. But tactical patience, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. In order to get there, there's some other things that have to happen prior to getting to a swarm capability. Mm-hmm. One, you have to change your culture. You have to field a new family of systems, and you have to build that culture up from the ground up with operators that are trained, right? Because if you just give them kit, that's not capability.
Nope.
Capability is a trained operator that has the knowledge base. They've been through a non-commissioned officer, tactical schools, like the professional development pipelines, whether that's a soldier, an officer, an NCO. They become a tactician with a hyper-enabled sensor. So that's the first piece, right? Is rebaselining from what we did not do, what we had and what we did not do with what we had during the GWAT. So rebaselining between 2022 2025 to 2030. That's our rebaselining, right? And then 2030 is really where I see like our swarm annex coming online. And that'll be the new form of mass and concentration. We'll probably reconstitute shooters, right? Because if you have all these systems out there, you got to have operators, right? So what's the Army force structure going to be like? What does the rifle infantry squad look like in 2015? What does it look like in 2025?
Yeah.
Do I have more people on controllers? But the things they're doing with controllers, I haven't taken triggers away. I've just changed the trigger.
Yep.
Now they're having operational effects at distance, new distances that we haven't historically been able to touch with direct fire weapon systems. So now we have horizontal problems with vertically integrated solutions. So that's going to change, right? And then swarm, to your point, your question, as we develop the requirement and we look at collaborative autonomous, like multi-agent behaviors, like what are they going to be? As we start to dial that into the requirement and like codify like what that's going to be, material, hardware solution, I think what you're going to see is a parting of pathways. You're going to have a software piece that's going to be integrated to what you currently have fielded with a swarm with what you have kind of capability, right? Goes back to your point we were talking about before the show on how do I get better economies of scale with power and things like that. So if I can have a software solution across all those family of systems, I can swarm with what I have. So I don't have to buy new hardware. Now I have software that can hyper enable those to get more juice for the squeeze out of those.
Future proof.
Yeah. And then as we do a dedicated swarm asset, holy crap, what does that become? Hardware, software solution. Can I have that in a maneuver support element? And then I reconstitute more shooters, right? Put more fingers on triggers. And now I can kick out a swarm. I can go, hey, establish a forward line or a screen line.
Yep. Or,
hey, we're moving along this corridor or this main avenue of approach. Give me a left flank. Give me a right flank. What's the power regeneration? Can I have an Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta swarm team? And I kick out Alpha and Charlie to do these behaviors. And as those systems are either kinetically used to neutralize, defeat, destroy, or I'm putting up a screen line, or I'm using electronic warfare sensors to find enemy emitters and then inform the kill chain from not just the tactical level, but the operation and strategical level. I'm feeding the beast, right? The intelligence beast, because everything's about intelligence. And like, what can I gather on the enemy? It's the one thing they teach you fundamentally to do as an infantryman. Doesn't matter if you're a soldier, an NCO, or an officer. Intelligence preparation of the battlefield rules the day. The enemy sit temp dictates everything else you do. So if I can do that with swarm, think of all those tasks now that I don't have to do with organic men, weapon, and equipment. I can have an augmentative,
massive cognitive load will be decreased.
Yeah. And I'm flying. Photogrammetry is really cool. It's really cool, but take that and now I'm building overlays. Like if you look at Gaza on October 6th on a map, and then look at it on October 8th, that whole piece of terrain changed.
Yeah.
So what can I do with swarm to help give me the decision advantage? And that's everything the swarm's going to be. Hardware, software, decision advantage. People always ask me like, what do you think a swarm is? And I was like, well, I always go back to like biological entities, right? Whether that's in the sea, the sky, or on land, ants, fish, birds, insects especially, right? So to my son, who's scared to death of, he'll probably kill me when he gets older and sees this, like scared to death of like bees, right?
Yeah.
He's never been stung in his life. To him, one bee is like a swarm, right?
Sure.
It's had the intended effect from that biological entity on him to egress and get the hell out of that bee's zone, right? Whether it's flowers or a hive. Now, if he kicks a hive, then the swarm kicks into high gear, like they dial up the spicy, right? Do they come out of the wasp nest? Do they come out of the yellow jacket, ground nest? And then what are they doing to protect the hive?
Right.
Flip that and turn it into an offensive capability, a defensive capability. So you just take everything we do, and this is why the United States is the best, I think, warfighting machine the world's ever seen. It's like we always have Doctrine as our fallback, our institutional baseline, but it's because we're free thinkers. We have commander's intent. It's like Peyton Manning at the line. Like he can see what the defense is getting ready to throw up and call an audible and shift. That's what swarm's going to be for us in like 2030. And then I feel sorry for the enemy of our future, but they're going to, FAFO. So
yeah.
when we field all these systems in mass, not onesies, twosies, sprinkling across, small formations, in mass, the Army will have the largest Air Force per capita in the world. And it's really starting to bring in more people, right? This is a coalition of the willing, right? Are you an American or are you an American?
Yeah. Now just look at Ukraine and Russia. It's 300,000 drones a month. And the numbers are going to keep going up.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. Each week, we bring you fascinating conversations with leaders shaping the future of air, sea, land, and space technologies. Catch new episodes every Tuesday wherever podcasts can be found. Until then, we'll see you next time.